had an opportunity to talk to a few of you this week, so I want to address that. This call is going to be a little different from the norm because what I got a takeaway of in the calls that I did. So I did 3 calls this week, maybe 4, but it's a little bit of blur because I did a bunch of calls this week. But I spoke to enough of you guys to learn and understand that we're really trying to get a big picture of the ecosystem, learning how to navigate the different complexities of all the different tools, how to make like better choices in terms of the tools you're trying to use. The one takeaway that was definitely common amongst you guys, and we'll see if this continues when I start talking to other people, is the fact that because you've never really done a SaaS model, it's very easy to get caught up in the technology part of things, okay? And what I want to do is make sure that we don't get too much in the weeds. In fact, one guy told me, he said, listen, man, the AI can code. What I need help with is how to go about building my system and how to use all these tools and which ones I should use. I really appreciate that help because I could easily turn this channel into a vibe coding programming session 101. And the truth is, we're not about that so much. Like, we're about the coding, yes, but we're more about, okay, what's your goal? What's your mission? Here are the things that you need to learn. Here's how you launch a product. Here's the things that you like. These are must have that you have to set up before you could even launch a product. And how do we get to your first customer, right? That's the mission. That's the goal. So I want to make sure that we stay true to that. As a result, this call specifically will be a little different and it's still experimental, just to be clear. So if you guys are like, man, this guy's boring me, like, by all means, give me your feedback, okay? Because it's super important. That's going to be the mission of this particular live stream is we're going to take a step back a little bit because I want to make sure that you guys are in the community, you have an understanding of me, that I can help you to deliver on what is it that you're trying to accomplish from a technical standpoint. So the real question is, what else are you guys struggling with? The AI can help a lot with coding. Hopefully that makes some sense. For TikTok people, join my link in the bio. You can go to YouTube and find me there. So that's basically the goal, right? So with that, we're going to try to do a couple things. We're going to talk about Cloudflare at a very high level. And what we're going to do, we're going to talk about Cloudflare a little high level first. We're going to jump into, I want to just touch on 1 or 2 things around the previous project we were working on, the close some things, because Ramon, you'd asked me a question last week about doing like user management and stuff. And I've decided I'm not going to build that out, but I'll talk about it just so we can close that off. And if you guys have any questions about the product from last week, if you've been following it along, feel free to, I'm more than happy to answer it. Let me pull up my coding platform here. I'm going to take about 15 minutes. First, we're going to talk about a couple of backend things. So Vibe Coding 101, new terminal, and CODE. Oh, you know what? I've been using VS Code Insider more than I've been using VS Code, the regular, because VS Code, they release a few new features that I'm actually really liking, and it's not in the main version yet because it's still being tested. One of the things that they brought out is this new side panel here. I'm supposed to do a video on it. I've been really slow with my videos this week, but it brought out this new side panel here that allows you to do multiple agents at the same time. If you click on that, you could have a chat window. You could change it. You could put it to Claude, and then you could do another chat window. You could have like multiple chat windows, and then you could have chat 2, and you could change it to, say, Sonnet. So you could have 2 or 3 different vibe coded LLMs running at the exact same time while you code, which I think is cool because I've been running into a bunch of problems specifically around this, and this has been helping me to solve the problem, especially if you're running a mono repo, right? Which is something we'll talk about because a couple of you had some problems with that. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. Okay, let's jump into things. So let's talk about Cloudflare at a very high level because this is the common theme that I got from you guys all together, okay? And the first thing that I got from you is most of you mentioned to me that you're questioning whether you should be using. I saw a couple of diagrams that you guys showed me, and one of the things that came up was that you had just lots of different tools that you're trying to figure out. You're confused on whether you should use D1 database from Cloudflare or whether you should use Prism, Superbase, or some of the other tools altogether. There was just a lot of confusion around that. So I thought, one, I'll show you what I built on Cloudflare this week. Just a dashboard. This is my internal dashboard here. This dashboard is responsible for showcasing the different internal tools that we have, the different marketing tools. And the goal is so that you could just click on one link and it'll just take you to that location of whatever that tool is, right? So that's basically the mission and the goal of this application. With that, this health tool I built this week literally gives a glimpse of all of It's not all right now because I just started adding things to it, but basically it'll give an overview of our applications, the uptime, what's working, what's not working, etc. And the reason why I built this out was because there was a lot of problems that I was running into personally with keeping track of all the different applications that I built. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is because I had one person that I was talking to this week was questioning, like, how much can you really scale with Cloudflare D1 database? Okay, and this is something I want to address in this particular call. So I'm showing you this application to give you some understanding of the complexity first, and then we'll talk about like the architecture and the details. Okay, so this application vibe coded this week, literally, like no exaggeration. I spent maybe 4 days on it, just getting it right. What does it do? At a very high level, it's just a ping service. What it does is, let's say this is my application and this is my database. It's a Cloudflare worker that sits here that has a timer. The timer runs every minute, MIN, okay? And then every minute, it basically, I give it a specific URL. It pings the URL, PING, okay? Once it gets back a response, if it gets back a 200, it basically puts that into a database, not the same database. It actually puts it into a D1 database. So it puts it into D1, okay? And the response, whatever the response is in the JSON here, it also saves that into the D1 database as well. And it's doing that every single minute, 24 hours a day for n number of URLs. Right now I only have, how many do I have inside of here? I only have, so 3 endpoints, 6, this 9, and so 10 endpoints, right? I only have 10, oh, it's right here, 10 endpoints. So I only have 10 in there right now, but by the time I'm finished with this, it will literally have hundreds of endpoints pinging every single minute for every single thing. So as an example, if I click into this, see here, okay, it just goes on. The reason I'm talking about this is because there's this misconception that you need to like have another database system, Postgres or Superbase or something like that, and to be able to build something. Superbase is fine. You could do 100,000 monthly active users, okay? So let's just do this for sake of argument here, okay? Let's say Cloudflare database, or Cloudflare D1 pricing, okay? Let's just do this for the sake of thing. This is a quote unquote small database, all right? Cloudflare small database. You can do for free 5 million reads per day, okay? Now compare that to Superbase, which is doing 100,000 monthly active users. This is per month. So the question is, what does that really mean? Like, obviously, they're not apples to apples comparison. So you could have 100,000 monthly active users. But what's the definition of a user for them? Is a user just like 100,000 monthly active transactions, right? Like it's getting a little bit blurry as to how to compare this. So with Cloudflare, I know exactly what I'm getting. I'm getting 5 million reads per day, okay? In other words, first 25 billion reads per month is included. Per month, billion, okay? Rows, I can do 100,000 per day. We have this notion that Cloudflare and their D1 database is like small potatoes. And in the grand scheme of databases, the D1 database is a small thing, right? There's some limitations, but the fact that you can do this many reads tells you that there's nothing in this community that you guys can tell me or convince me that you can't run on Cloudflare D1 database. And more importantly, if you wanted to pay for it, you'd be saving at least $20 a month. So this is why I want to have this conversation, because I think what's happening is you guys are new to this. You're evaluating Cloudflare, thinking that Cloudflare is good for the front end, but not necessarily for the back end. It could solve this problem, but it's not a problem. I'm here to tell you that any single thing you can throw at Cloudflare at this scale, Cloudflare can handle. And more importantly, you don't have to pay that extra cost per month for capabilities that you don't necessarily have, right? Now, mind you, their free version gives you 50,000 daily active users. So it's not terrible, but that's 5 gigs, right? Cloudflare will give you 10 gigs. 1 gig is file storage, whereas this is going up to 100 gig. Here's what I would say altogether, just on the database front, because we're going to move on from database, but I want to just harp this for everybody that's like in this boat of, is Cloudflare better? Should we do Superbase? What's the other one that most people are talking about? Prism, PRIS. Database. There's a couple of people that brought up Prism as well for database. And I want to be clear, I'm not knocking these services and tell you that they're not good. But what I want to do is say, if you're vibe coding something, if you're vibe coding for the very first time, stick to one platform. That's what I'm really getting at here. Don't try to put your database in this application and to put your database over here, whatever the deal is. Because at I want to stress this, at 5 million requests per day, 25 billion reads per month, there's nothing that your brand new vibe coded app can put this to bring this down. Just want to be clear with that. And at $5 per month. Okay. So be real about capabilities. All right. So I've harped on that point enough. That brings me back to this point. I built this application, and the reason why I built it as a monitoring platform is because even though this is monitoring all of my endpoints per day, per minute, right? And storing all of the data for all the major endpoints. Okay. It's all the major endpoints. I still won't even hit these numbers for Cloudflare. Like I won't. Okay. And so I just want to be clear with that. Like we, as vibe coders, we got to get this idea out of our head that we want to build something for scale and it must scale to 1 million users or whatever the deal is. The reality is you're not going to get to 1 million users on day one. And by the time you start hitting that kind of scale, you either have enough money that you could pivot, or even better, you could migrate your data across. Not that hard. This is why I'm harping on this picture, and we're going to spend some time on this architecture type stuff because I really want people to understand this. If you're going down the road of Superbase and this is your first application, I'm just going to encourage you, don't. And I'm being very opinionated about it. Obviously, if you want to do Superbase, I think somebody else is doing Mongo. If you want to do Mongo, if you don't, simplify your architecture. Just simplify it. All right. This is me preaching to a group of people that I'm learning a little bit about, and I'm learning that there's a lot of complexity you guys are adding to things. So I just wanted to touch on that. All right. Let's talk about the other layers altogether on this thing here. Who's building a real-time application? Any single thing that has real-time capabilities. I got to wait for the chat to catch up. But if anybody's building a real-time product where you need to see things happening in real time. So what is a real-time application? For example, Miro would be a real-time application. So something like this, where you want to do collaboration. So Miro here, where it's like in real time, you want to have two people doing the same thing on the same set of stuff at the exact same time. Does that ring a bell? This kind of collaborative type of thing where you have either the same mouse or whatever. Is anybody doing that? If you are, put a 1 in the chat. If not, put a 0. I'm just curious on who's doing that. Okay. If you are, we got to wait for the chat to catch up. But if you are, and you're doing any single thing with real time, durable objects is the way to go. We're going to talk a little bit about durable objects here because most people don't really get it. They don't understand. Then we're going to switch gears a little bit. What is a durable object? Why is it important? In fact, it's probably one of the only services that I know currently like this that actually does some of the crazy things that it does, really, right? The way to think about durable object is like this. If you're building an application, any application, doesn't really matter. Let's say you have a chat application, probably the first thing that comes to mind. Let's go with a chat application. You have a bunch of users. Discord would be a good example of it. Let's say you have Discord, all right? You have a chat inside of here. And then in here, you have messages going back and forth with your little chat thingy here. Okay. So one of the things that you might want to do is, you've seen this before, right? You see that little dot that shows somebody's typing. This is where durable objects really shine. This is just one example, obviously. You have two users across the globe, both using Discord, chatting back and forth. This is my very fancy chat application. Okay. So this guy is in, let's say, US. Okay. And this guy is, I don't know, Africa. Let's go with Africa. Shout out to Africa. Frica. Okay. Africa. Right. Now, when I start typing, this guy in the US can see that I'm typing. And when the guy in the US start typing, person in Africa can see that he's typing. What's sitting behind that interaction is durable objects. Okay. So the way how to think about durable object is it's your application somewhere on the globe has, let's call it a direct line. And it actually is a direct line connected by WebSocket. Okay. And this application here also has a direct line connected to it in real time. Somebody mentioned that they were using Convex before. It's like that, but not using a database here. And it has a two-way communication. This is the best way to think about it. It has a two-way communication. So it's in real time. So whenever you start typing, all you have to do is just update an object in the durable object. So you might have some object that represents the state of the user. And all you would have to do is change that state. This object is listening to the exact same state and it would show it in real time. All you have to do is just basically put in your state. And durable object just magically spreads that out to globally across the globe. Okay, I won't go into the details on what's going on in the back end because it's just mind blowing. The problem is it's so complex that when they talk about it, it almost doesn't make sense. URAB. So durable objects. Okay. So what are durable objects? Durable objects is a special kind of cloud worker that uniquely combines compute and storage. A worker durable object is automatically provisioned geographically close to its first request. Each durable object has a global unique ID, it has durable storage, etc. It's a stateful service. Where you see, that's the problem with this, right? I find that Cloudflare does, okay, what do you do with this? Built with durable objects. If you're doing multiplayer games, this is a good example. If you're doing any kind of multiplayer type stuff where in real time, two users have to communicate because you're like sending a request or whatever, durable object automatically deals with that. I don't know if their diagram highlights that point properly. This is why we're talking about it. Let's scrap our chat application. Let's say this was some kind of shooting game, right? And then here was another player on this side here doing a shooting game. Durable objects allows you to keep track of those two requests in real time, synchronized, because it's using WebSockets in the background. In real time, you can communicate back and forth and do a chat type. Where I want to use this software is to sync. This is where I think it actually is something that I haven't seen much people do about. But let's say that you had that when you click a button here, right? Let's say you click a button and it pops up some sort of interface. You could have a completely different browser in the other part of the world with the exact same view. And then whenever you click on that because durable object is sitting in the background, it triggers the show you element. This element would automatically get it, and then it would automatically show the UI element. And so you could synchronize, or you could synchronize colors, or you could synchronize anything that you could possibly do on the web browser. You could synchronize it by just trapping it in a state and dumping it onto the durable object so that everybody will have access to it. It's an extremely powerful set of tools, but it's also very abstract in the way that it's set up. And so as a result, most people just dismiss it. That's why I'm having this conversation, because what I'm really trying to do with this is stretch you guys' imagination. If you notice, we're not talking about coding specifically. We're just talking at a very high level of what some of these tools do. We won't go through all of them, but I really want to do that because I've been hearing a common theme, at least in the conversations that I've been having. So D1 database can go wrong. Right, 25 billion reads per month. Durable object, sharing state across any object in real time, similar to, in real time, but similar to any single thing. And then for R2 is storage, right? So this is just your traditional, this is where in our previous video, we were uploading blob storage to. Actually, technically it's R2, but it's a streaming service that we're uploading to that then sits it's on R2 altogether, okay? The ones that so we already know because we talked about it multiple times here, which is workers, but I'm just going to cover it very quickly because I noticed that there's some new people that kind of join in. So the worker, right, is your workhorse. If you're familiar with Node, it's Node, right? It's not Node. I just want to be clear with that, but think of it like NODE. If you don't know what Node is, just think of it like a platform that allows you to run code, JavaScript. This is globally distributed. You have your application, you send a request to your worker. Your worker would then basically connect to your D1 database, retrieve that information, and then report it back to the UI, let's say in some sort of table format. And then if you're doing user type of stuff, where it's like you want to show the state of a user on the screen. And by the way, that user is, let's say you wanted to show your mouse position on the screen, you would connect that to durable objects. Right? Durable objects would be responsible for sending back and forth your mouse movement on the screen. And if there's somebody else, they'd be able to see the exact same thing by connecting to that durable object. KV store, you're using that for key value. So basically a Redis cache. Now here's the thing. I'm going to show you this here because I actually want to show you guys how fast this D1 database is. Okay. So I'm using this application as a reference because I think it's a good example. So look at this request, like how long it's taken for my application to respond. However, if I go to Cloudflare and I log in and I go to my D1 database storage, I'm going to show you how fast it is. So health monitoring keeps messing with my IDs every single time. Edit blur. So hang on a second. Look at so right now, again, this application just got spin up this week. Okay. So it's not very big. In storage, I've used 20 megabytes currently. Total queries, 12,000, 61,000 reads. 26,000 rows written so far. Okay, so growing pretty fast. And this is in the last 24 hours because if I go back to the last 3 days, okay, it has a little bit more records. So 43, so a little bit more double. Okay, but let me show you this in terms of speed. This is the latency that we're dealing with on the D1 level. I don't know if, can I make this a little bit bigger? I don't know if I can. Let me see. So query latency, okay? Here, let's make this bigger. Query latency, last 3 days. Look at these numbers. It's really hard to explain. Look at the numbers. 0.1, 3 ms, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 seconds. It is extremely fast. So again, I can't really give you a head-to-head comparison between Superbase and this, but do you really need something faster than 3 milliseconds? Okay, I don't think so. I'd be shocked if you do. This is one of those things where I just want you guys to understand how fast it is. It's just exceptionally fast, right? Back it up a little bit more, right? So we got our D1. So I actually believe that if you're using D1 database, you don't need a KV. There's very few reasons why you would actually need a KV store. The only time you would use a KV store is if you have an external database outside of the Cloudflare ecosystem. You're not using D1, so like Superbase or something, and you don't want to hit the database every single time. That's where your KV would come in handy, right? And again, I'll give you another example of that. So one of the things that we're doing, let's get out of this client and let's go to test login. And one of the things that I'm doing is with KV, right? All of these drop downs as an example, these are being stored with KV. Okay. And the reason for that is it just makes it super fast. So it loads first from the database, it loads it. And then after that, once it gets loaded, then you basically start to just hammer it. So this is what we're just making sure that we get this idea. So I really want to make sure that everybody understands that I'm telling you Cloudflare will solve all your problems, or at least will get you really close to building a super large application at scale with no problems altogether. I sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's just a common theme that I've heard this week. So I'm just really repeating it to make sure that everybody's on the same page. All right, next up, Workers platform. So this one here, these are new, okay? I'm not going to go through too much details inside of here, but the browser rendering one is the one that I want to talk about. So these two here, I built a browser rendering tool that I'm working on right now. I'm not going to go into specific details on it because I'm still trying to get the basics out. But the browser rendering tool is also a hidden feature. So if you're doing any single thing like scrape from a government website, right? Let's say you have to scrape this information from a list. The browser API is fantastic for that because you could just basically go to the website, pretend like you're a user, find the listing, copy the information, bring it over, put it into your database. So that's where this browser rendering tool comes in. And then today we're going to try to tackle this guy here, the workflow, right? Email summarizing. Okay. So hopefully that's giving you something. I wanted to talk about this a little bit because I think what's been happening is people are getting, if you're new to vibe coding, you've never really done this before. So what do I do? Where do I go? Should I use this tool? Cloudflare literally has it all. Unless you're an enterprise customer that has really large, complex stuff, Cloudflare's where it's at. Moving forward, let's jump on a couple other topics here. And again, we're just skipping over a bunch of stuff because I want to make sure that the new people understand vibe coding, the state of vibe coding, what's happening, where you should be looking, etc. I've covered this on a video before, but I'm repeating myself here for newer people that joined recently. So I'm going to talk about the state of this landscape very quickly. Okay, so if you're vibe coding, there's a lot of tools inside of here. I won't go into all the details, but if you are vibe coding, the big ones like Lovable. Everybody talks about Lovable. Bolt, maybe V0 or Rep. I think those are the main ones that people normally use. And obviously Claude and the GitHub Copilot. A lot of people have been asking me, one of the questions I got this week was about how do you know which one to choose? Because if you're vibe coding for the very first time, how do you know which one to choose? Why should you choose one over the other? And I'm going to try to answer that question and at least give you guys some guiding principles around it. So let's talk about Lovable first. Lovable is fantastic. It's really good. If you're doing Next.js, it's even better. I vibe coded these three applications here. What is this one? Saving. Right. I vibe coded this personal finance tracker. It's a really good tool. It's just a quick finance tracker to help you with personal finance. The good thing about Lovable is that you could just do this and publish it right away. Okay. The problem here with Lovable, I know they're working now with the Superbase team. I think it's Superbase that they're working on. See, they have Enterprise, which is crazy. So here, credits, custom domain, remove lovable, etc. Here's the problem when you start jumping into lovable, what you end up having right off the top. The number one problem that you start running into is when you need database and security. Those are going to be the two things that you're going to start running into problems with. And the minute that becomes a problem, you're forced to exit your code, right? Bring it into VS Code, right? And then try to start fixing things or connecting it to whatever, right? What I've been preaching is use these as a starting point because they're actually really good starting point tools. But the reality is the minute you got something viable, move it over to a VS Code and move it over right away to Cloudflare, right? Not for sale or any other place, Cloudflare. Okay. And for that reason, I think it's one of the better paths to take. The reason for doing this, more importantly, is because you have control. VS Code gives you control. Lovable won't give you that control. You just won't be able to do as much with it. The same applies to Bolt. Bolt is extremely good at spinning up a project, getting a proof of concept, etc. The problem is that if you try to build something really complex in Bolt, it's going to start breaking down. You just can't vibe code your way through the entire thing. So that's why it's super important that you either start with this and then move it over to VS Code or Cursor, by the way, just to be clear. You bring it over to Cursor, bring it over to VS Code. Doesn't matter. Just get it out of Bolt and VS and Lovable and all of the other tools because you're going to run into problems. Okay. Speaking of problems, let's talk about some of the problems that you're going to run into when you do vibe coding. And again, for more senior people on the call, I'm apologizing in advance because I'm really just trying to level set in this conversation about some of the challenges that I've seen and heard about. So let's say you coded your app, pick Lovable, pick Bolt, whatever. Okay, so this is your app. You coded it. It's great. And then now you launched it. Let's pretend for a second that you actually launched it. Okay, let's say that you actually launched the application. You start getting new users. Tons of users start hitting your application. You start getting bugs report, okay? The number one problem that will bring your app down is you get a bunch of bugs and you can't fix it fast enough. The second thing you start getting is feature requests. Assuming that your app is good, you're going to start getting a bunch of feature requests. The other thing that you're just going to get is support, okay? Unless you have a very basic app and it's a one-off kind of sale, you have to be prepared for this. I'll tell you the story. When we had our very first application, when we launched it, 2019, somewhere around there. One of the biggest problems that we run into is that it was written on an old platform, ASP.NET. It wasn't set up for scale because we had one customer that was using it for a while. We started getting close to 10 or 15 signups per week. For a B2B application, that's a lot because there was a lot of background stuff that we had to do. The bugs just kept, as fast as we could try to squash a bug, another one came up. It was just plain whack-a-mole if you've ever seen that game before. And this became a huge problem for us to the point where we just couldn't keep up with it. What ended up happening is the customers started leaving. We just started losing customers left and center. And we were losing those customers because the application just wasn't good enough. Essentially, you need to set up a procedure in place where whenever you're getting these bugs that you can actually deal with them, number one. Number two is whenever people are asking for new features, it'd be nice if I get a button that can do this, you can build it out. And obviously the support in the background will also be a thing. All right, bugs. It's super important that if you find a bug that you know that you actually can fix it, right? So if you're vibe coding, maybe you're not as new to dealing and fixing bugs, so you don't know exactly where to look for the bug. That's a problem, right? If you're adding new features, you have to make sure that if you add a new feature, you don't break something. That's also a problem. So the issue between those two things, you need to have some kind of testing, right? You need to have some way of testing these things to make sure that you're going to be able to just make a change and nothing breaks, which is super important. Okay, you got to be able to make a change, make sure that nothing breaks, because if you don't, and if you make a change and things break, then you end up in like developer hell, right? It's not a nice place to be. So you need proper testing. The testing can't be just clicking around the application and doing things, because the truth is you're not going to be able to fix all of the bugs fast enough. Same thing goes for the features. If you need to add a new feature, you need to ensure that it doesn't break the old stuff. We're in Vibe Coding 101, so I'm making sure that everybody understands those core concepts. For my programmers and my developers in the room, we're doing something a little different this week. So this is a problem. So you have to there's a couple ways that you could deal with this problem. Number one is, if the application is getting too big, you're going to have to break it up into parts. So you're going to have to let's call it vibe coding the side navigation, vibe code top navigation, vibe code page 1. Vibe code page 2. The issue that you'll run into with doing that is that you'll constantly keep getting different elements. So you're going to have to figure out how to deal with that. You could use Figma and a few other tools to do it. The point is, this will be a problem. Keeping the UI consistent, keeping the interface consistent altogether. We're just going to have to think about those problems very easily, right? Hopefully that's giving you some concepts. I'm just at a high level painting a broad stroke problem challenge on where you're going to find some of these challenges. One of the questions that came up this week was, if I'm not a developer and I get these problems, how do I fix them? And what do I do? The reality is you're going to have to rely on tests. Right? This whole testing platform that I'm building is because of this exact issue where we just got to track the issues, fix the bugs, etc. Okay. With that, let us move forward. Make sure I got all the pieces here in Cloudflare. Streaming, we talked about streaming. Vectorized database. Let's talk about this one here, which is abstract for most people. Make sure we got that right. Okay, let's back up a little bit. One of the things that you're going to do, so we're gonna switching over gears now. It's 2:00 now, so I want to switch into our actual app that we're building. But I want to talk about this one thing here that will help us with the app that we're building all together, which is AI summarization. So let's talk about it in the context of the app. So we're going to be building a email summarizer, AI email summarizer. Okay. Hopefully you guys could see that. I don't know if you can see it properly. Let me zoom in a little more. There. We're going to build AI email summarizer. So what's going to happen is emails are going to come in. Let's say this is email. It's going to go, we're going to use Gmail. It's going to hit Gmail. We're going to have a worker that's going to pull that email from Gmail. That's going to use authentication. AUTH. Okay. We'll talk a little bit about auth in a bit. So the worker is going to have to read the email, pull it out. When it does that, the first thing it's going to do is we're going to basically pull that worker. We're going to store it into D1 database. Okay. We're going to store it in the D1 database. From there, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to use, where is it on this graph here? We're going to use worker AI. Oops, this guy. Worker AI is going to do a couple things for us. The one thing that it's going to do is what's called a summarize. We're going to do a basic summary. Okay, so we're going to do a summarization. So in D1 database, we might have a table that's called summary. Workers AI will call out to some large language model. Workers AI will send back that data to my worker. It'll go to my worker. We'll put it into the D1 database as a summary. Now, if we need to do advanced search, let's say we want to ask questions specifically on our database. So let's say you got a whole bunch of emails, right? As you know, in your inbox, you could do a search, but we want to get away from just basic search. We want to do more advanced stuff. We want to ask questions like, hey, I had a conversation with John 5 weeks ago about the state of AI. What was that conversation about? That's what we're trying to get to, okay? So to do that, LLM, large language model, one of the things that we could do is we could take that email, the same email, and we could basically drop it into our Vectorize DB. We'll talk about what vectorization is in a bit. And so whenever we ask a question, let's just say that this is a search or a title or what the deal is. We ask a question. The question will do one of two things. It's going to use the vectorized database to pull out the relevant information based on the question. Then it's going to use that to go against the AI that will then basically make a call out to the API to get the right answer and then bring it back to us. All that's being done by the worker. That process I just described is called, it stands for retrieval. Retrieve the information, augment the information, basically merge it together, and then generate an answer. If you're going to build an AI email summarization platform, this is basically what we have to do. Hopefully that's clear. So let's go build something. Kind of took a little time to explain all the details. Let's go build something. Get rid of all these tabs. Got way too many tabs. Okay, so we'll spin up a new project. We're going to create a new folder. We're going to call it AI Summarizer. We're going to start vibe coding in true vibe coding fashion. Now, I want to be clear with this. I've actually never built an AI summarizer on, so we're going to learn this together. So let's go through this. Okay, first things first, we want to set up a couple of things. We want to, again, going back to our diagram. Let me just make this a little bit bigger for you guys. I forgot to do that at the start. Display, which one is which? Arrange. Okay, so that's the CF, this one here. Okay, we'll bring it down to 690. Hopefully that'll give you a little bit more view. All right, close this. How do I close this? What the hell? Really? Okay, doesn't matter. Oh, there you go. Close button. Okay, so AI Summarizer. So here's what we're going to do. I'm using VS Code. I'm going to use their new planning tool because their new planning tool has some pretty cool features out. And we're going to tell it. So we're going to say, actually, and let's use 4.5 because it's just better. Or let's, you know what? Let's just go with 4. 4 is pretty fast. So we're going to say, hey, in my front-end AI Summarizer project, I would like to build a new application that's going to be responsible for parsing emails. It's going to be a Cloudflare worker project. Actually, you know what? I take that back. It's going to be our backend project. We need to do a backend for this as well. We need to copy this and paste it here. We need to rename it. So here is our backend. Okay, so in here is where we're going to be doing things. Let's rename this. In our AI Summarizer backend project, what's going on? Where's my texting? What's going on? Hey, in my AI Summarizer backend project, I want to create a AI Summarizer. The goal will be to parse emails from Gmail. We're going to basically take it in, run it on Cloudflare. We're going to use AI to come up with a summary of the email. In some cases, we're going to try to vectorize it so we can then ask questions against our email inbox. We also want to build to make that happen. The UI will sit in our front-end AI Summarizer project, and it's going to be in Knox tree. Okay. Now, mind you, there is a library out there that Cloudflare has that can do this whole vibe coding thing, but I'm trying to build this from scratch. So let's do that. Help me come up with a plan on all the pieces I need so I can follow step by step on what to do. What I'm doing here is I'm in VS Code and I'm in planning mode. If you notice, I'm not in agent mode yet. This is very new. So this is Insider, VS Code Insider Edition. It allows me to walk through a plan. We're going to do things a little bit differently this time. Normally I would vibe code it by voice, but we're going to do it differently this time. Oh, you know what? That messed up I have to arrange my monitor a little bit because it messed it up. There we go. Done. Where's the close? What's going on with the close button here? Close window. There we go. It seems like when I live stream, I get extra options on my screen. All right. So we got an AI Summarizer with Gmail integration. So build a comprehensive email processing that ingests emails from Gmail with AI-powered summarization, vectorization for Q&A capabilities. First, let me gather sort of context about your existing project, understand the current state. So we got a backend folder thing. So now I have some comprehensive understanding. Plan AI Summarizer with Gmail integration, vectorization, build a comprehensive processing that ingests emails, generates an AI Summarizer, creates a vector, provides a front end for interaction with querying against content. Initialize backend, create the worker process with Gmail API integration, AI workers for summarization, and vectorization for embeddings. Okay, so I should mention that that's actually it's called embedding, and just I should mention that. So basically, whenever you store emails or anything in our vectorized database, the way to think about it is, let's say I have the word good. The way AI thinks about saving information is AI keeps information in what's called a vector. The best way to think about a vector is a bunch of numbers. So AI would basically take text and then convert it to numbers. That's the definition of vectorization in the simplest way I could describe it. For every single word that you have, let's say this is a good boy, it would take every single word and it would chop it up into numbers. And those numbers is what it would use and then store it in a database. And that's called a vectorized database. The reason why it does it, the science people can tell you more than I can. But the bottom line is that it makes it extremely fast. For some strange reason, the AI knows how to keep these numbers in some sort of order where it could figure things out really fast. This is the layman's explanation of what's going on there. So that's why we're going to be doing a vectorized database. Okay. Because the worker, email integration, AI worker summarization, and a vectorize for embeddings. That's what it's called. Those numbers are called embeddings. Then we're going to set up an API integration with email, configure OAuth credentials, and then implement a pipeline, add Cloudflare AI workers for text summarization, vector. Then we're going to create a vector search system that integrates with Cloudflare. I've actually never used this here before, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then develop Knox3 UI for email summarization, etc. Okay, so we'll do the first part first. Email scope. Should we focus on the specific labels, etc., whatever cases? No, we're going to use Cloudflare workers. So we're going to use a Llama model for summarization, okay, for vector storage, embedded in Cloudflare Vectorize versus consider email volume and search capabilities. I'm definitely going to store it. We're going to do Cloudflare Vectorize. So that'll be interesting to authentication measure, leverage existing auth system from video platform for implementation Gmail access. Yes. So the answer to the questions are, and then data retention, how long should we store the email contents for? Okay, again, we're in planning mode right now, so we're planning things out. Yeah, okay, got you. Yeah, no, I'm trying to get better at this stuff. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to answer all these questions all together. And I appreciate the feedback, Ramon. Gmail scopes. Should we focus on specific? In terms of Gmail API scopes, we're just going to do the inbox all together. And in terms of Cloudflare, we're going to use Cloudflare AI workers. Llama model is perfectly fine for summarization. That's cool because it's small and it's cheap. In terms of embeddings, we're going to use Cloudflare Vectorize instead of the D1. For authentication, we're going to leverage the existing Auth0 setup for the video platform because we already have that going with Auth0. So we're going to use that. And then we're going to do data retention. Just keep the data forever. Okay. So yes. So again, what we're doing here is we're basically just planning out exactly what we want to actually build. I've been getting some success with using their planning feature. I still like the idea of talking directly to the model, but this one in particular, doing it this way, VS Code just gets all the context right off the top. It's going to come up with a plan and then I could just start executing on it. It's actually cool in that regard because then it just goes to doing implementation. It's asking me for the questions here. So we'll answer this section and then we'll tell it, hey, just go do your thing. Email rate limit. So should we implement back off? So 250 quotes? Yes. Which embeddings model should we use for vectorization? Consider performance versus accuracy. Data processing schedule. So how frequently should we use cron job to process jobs? So we're going to say last 30 days. That's fine. Search interface design. So should we implement a ChatGPT style interface? Yes. Consider user experience with thing. And then email privacy handling. Should we implement an email context description? So let's say in terms of rate limit, yes, let's rate limit it. We don't need to hammer email too much. Be very conservative with the way that you access Gmail. Vector dimensions, basically for vector, use the base N 1.5. That's cool. And for data processing, last 30 days is okay. We don't want to do that. In fact, just for starters, we'll do last 15 days and then we'll go from there. But give us maybe an ability to configure it later on so we could change the schedule of how far we go back in time. And then we want to have a search ChatGPT type interface. Just a basic UI would be okay. Use the Nux UI elements as much as we possibly can. And email privacy handling. We're not going to do encryption for now. So that's it. Okay, after that, we're just going to start cooking, right? For TikTok people, if you're here, just check out my YouTube. We're talking about vibe coding. I don't know how to share the screen and actually stream at the same time. This is just me trying to get people to go to my YouTube. Okay, we're going to rate limit. We're going to do error handling. Should we do error handling in Gmail exhaustion gracefully? Yes. Okay, choose the default for every single thing. Yes, use Nux, use cards, input button if possible, error handling. Do the basics, whatever you think is necessarily. Implement step flow, one Gmail authorization flow in the front end and handle admin configuration in the back end worker. Yes. Okay. And then let's start the work. Using Cloud4 because it's a little bit faster. And it said, okay, now we got enough details and then we're just going to come up with a basic plan. The good news about the planning mode is that it does a pretty good job. So here, it's going to give me step by step on exactly what it's going to do. It's not doing it. It's just telling me what it's going to do. All right. And then we're going to go from there. So we're going to create a database, process configuration, index, etc., TypeScript, email records, from to body, all that type of stuff. We got some email client secrets and all that. That's probably going to be the hardest part. So with this, we'll have enough here that we could, at bare minimum, pull the emails in from Gmail, shove it into our database and try to see if we could do a search on it. I think we'll be able to get through with that. Hopefully today. We'll see. All right. By the way, I brought snacks today because the last time I was hungry. Yogurt, really good for protein and keeping your energy level up. Highly recommend it. Okay, so let's start implementing. I'm going to switch to 4.5. No, I'm going to keep it on Cloud 4. I've been actually switching back to Cloud 4 quite a bit. So now we're going to switch it to agent mode and then start implementing. Okay. This has been my new workflow. It's not perfect, but it has been giving me decent results because I like the fact that I could just sit down and work through the plan and I'm already in the editor. When I do it with the PRD type process, project requirements document, I was doing it outside of VS Code and then try to bring those documents in and go from there. I like this idea where it takes my input of my plan and just start hacking away at the basics foundation. From there, I'm going to backtrack and start putting more details on it. In other words, while this is cooking, going back to my last diagram, getting an initial, I coded that one on the first try is pretty average, like anybody can do that. It's when you start to have to deal with the bugs and the features and the support that PRD, right, or spec kit or any one of these PRD, project requirements document, task list, feature, all this type of stuff to really matter. So what I've been trying to do is experiment with, instead of just vibe coding, doing all the upfront work at the start, which is how SpecKit and some of the other things have been telling you to do it. SpecKit is a GitHub opinionated way about how to do spec-driven development. I've looked at a few videos and I'm trying to do it, but it hasn't really worked out for me. Some people say they've gotten really good success with it. One guy reached out to me and said he's going to help me figure it out. So I was like, okay, cool. So what I'm basically doing is getting the AI to generate the code first, set up all the pieces, and then I'm going to add documentation and PRD and feature requests later on to the existing initial app. That's how I've been trying to vibe code in lately, and I've gotten decent success. That's how I did this one here, right? This whole application here is being thing. By the way, I didn't show this part here, but you have the ability to see this is how you would add a new endpoint. So you put in the endpoint name, you basically choose the category, you put a description. One of the main reasons why I wanted to build out my own endpoint monitoring system, and this is for people that are more technical in the room, is because for every endpoint, I could also put detailed description of troubleshooting, like all the things that I need to troubleshoot if this endpoint goes down. And more importantly, I can link to the video documentation right off the top. I think I have an example here. If I come into troubleshoot, scroll down, see here, I got documentation, which links to the docs. Right now it's just test information. I click on this here and I see a video that I recorded specifically about all of the code pieces related to this specific endpoint. One of the things you'll learn very quickly is that when the AI generates a lot of code, within a week, you will forget every single thing. Actually, it's not even a week. Sometimes it's like a day and a half. Like you will literally forget every single thing that was vibe coded. So getting in the habit of using a tool like LOOM, I use this every day, all day long to record a whole bunch of videos just to show you what I do with it. Click on that and then that'll pop up here. I click on start recording and just record my screen. Instantly, the minute it's finished, it gives me a URL that I could share. It's instant. It's not even 5 minutes because while you're recording, it streams all the way up to the top. Let's see where we are here. Compiler options. Okay, so we're going to come in and we're going to see what this view looks like. Okay, we got a lot of code in here. Yes, continue. This is also the reason why I've been going back to Claude 4, because one of the problems that I've experienced with Claude 4.5 is that Claude 4.5 tends to summarize the context really aggressively. And I think they're doing that because they're trying to save costs, obviously. But as a result of that, what I've noticed is that it spends an insane amount of time trying to aggressively summarize the history. And every single time you summarize the history, number one, it takes forever. But number two, it loses context. I've noticed that a couple of times. I find that I have to restart it. For this reason, I've been shifting back down to Claude Sonnet because it's better just going. Who's in the room? If anybody's in the room, say hi. Not a lot of people in here today, but whoever's in here, say hi. Let me know if you get any value. Put a 1 in chat if you get any value, or 2 or 0. Just say, you know what? This guy's boring. Doesn't know what he's talking about. That's totally cool too. Force me to improve and be better. For the new people that are joining, if you're in TikTok, go to my YouTube. And if you're on YouTube and you're new, say hi. It'd be good to know who's on there. Join our community. The link is at the top there. Join the community. It's a brand new community, just getting started. We're going to be doing a lot more deep dive, specifically on Cloudflare and vibe coding and building applications with Cloudflare. So if you're new, that's what we're going to be doing. You know what I should do? I should put the topic that we're doing today. Let's try that. See how it works. Join our vibe code to profit community. There. Let's see that. Let's see if that works. We'll see. Yeah, okay. So let's see what we got here. See, if you notice, this is why I Claude, because it just keeps going. I'm actually not doing any single thing right now. We're going to go through the code. We're going to talk about it in a bit, but it's just going. 4.5 has been very slow with this type of stuff. For 4.5, we would have been done by now. We would have probably tried to compress the context significantly faster, too aggressively. That's what I've noticed the most. And so with that, that's the reason why I've switched back over to Claude, because it's way better. Say hi in the chat if you're new. Please don't be a stranger. Go to my YouTube if you're interested in what we're coding. We're vibe coding an AI email summarizer. So with that, any questions? Chat's been a little bit dead, but any questions? You guys got any questions? We're building an AI email summarizer on Cloudflare. Yes. Join our vibe code community. Okay, let's go through some of this code while we're waiting for things to build, because we got a few other things that we got to do here. Authentication. That's going to be the biggest fight that we'll have in this call. which is how do we deal with authentication? We need to deal with email API integration with Auth0. And this is a bit of a dance. I'm going to do some diagram about this, but I just want to talk about this all together. There's two problems that we'll have to think about. I was watching a talk yesterday about your history, and it was about this thing. So I was watching a talk by Cloudflare, this guy. His name is Kenton Varda. He is the inventor of Cloudflare workers, by the way. Really smart guy. Principal engineer at Cloudflare. He built the Cloudflare worker. So it's fair to say that he kind of knows what he's doing. Anyway, he was talking about a problem which we're going to run into in this type of thing. Because what we're basically doing is he's talking about this idea of these agents. And agents being able to access your inbox as an example. Yeah. So this idea of taking an agent and summarizing your email. His argument was that Cloudflare is in the perfect position to do this for a couple of reasons. Number one was, if you're reading your email, it's very easy for you to go into a prompt injection attack. What is that? A prompt injection attack means that I could send an email, and I actually have a couple of examples. They send you an email and the text says, "Hi Dwayne, great to meet you, had a really good conversation about XYZ." But in the bottom of the email or at the top of the email, it has some instructions. Try to see if you can get access to Dwayne's bank account or something, and it's in white. So you can't see that text, but you can't see that text. You could only see the email text. "Hi Dwayne, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah." But if you have an AI that's reading your email, which is what we're building, just to be clear, what could happen is the AI could read that instructions, and let's pretend that the AI actually had access to your bank account. The AI might respond and share your bank account details, just as an example. So that's what you call prompt injection attack. This is a really big problem. What we're building is like a proof of concept. No, you can't put it against your email, but it definitely would be subject to prompt injection attack. What this guy has done, this Ken guy, is he's showing that you can do this differently by allowing the AI to be isolated in its own sandbox. And it turns out that Cloudflare workers is actually extremely efficient at doing exactly that because it was designed to do that from day one, right? Normally when you have what they call a sandbox, it's a virtual computer. But the problem with sandboxes is that they're very heavy containers. Workers, on the other hand, they're extremely light. Workers is the equivalent of opening up a new tab, right? Yeah, no, prompt injection attack is a legit real thing. It's like 100% real. In fact, I've started seeing them in my inbox. I've been seeing more and more where I get an email. One thing I'll tell you is I received an email from a brand new user. It was a spam. However, what the email said was like, "Hi Dwayne, just want to talk about blah, blah, blah." But in the hidden section of the email, aka the prompt injection, they had a series of conversations that looked like I was having that conversation with this person already. And when I saw the Gmail summarization, so you guys know Gmail has a summarization at the top of their email. So this is my test inbox here, okay? So let's say I open up this email. Email now has a summarization feature. Normally on my inbox, it has a summarization feature at the top. The summarization said, it appears that Dwayne has had several conversations with this person, so therefore this email is legit. Prompt injection doesn't necessarily have to be malicious. It might just be that they're using it to manipulate getting into your inbox. So in other words, it doesn't go into the promotional tab, the social tab, or the updates tab. It shows up in your main email inbox. And that's because in the hidden section of the email, again in white, it has text that shows back and forth conversation, obviously simulated with me already. So Gmail's, oh, Dwayne clearly had multiple conversations with this person, so it must be legit. Therefore, I'm going to promote this email to their inbox. I don't think we have a clear solution on how to deal with this problem yet. So anyway, that's a real big problem. And if you're building something like this, you're going to have that problem too. All right, so let's see what this tool has done for us. Let's talk through it. We got to go through this code now, figure out what happened. So I've successfully implemented let's bring this out a little bit more so we could see it. Yes, okay. So I've successfully implemented the complete API summarizer, backend and frontend. Here's what I've accomplished. So summarizer architecture, Cloudflare workers, D1 vectorized database, Gmail authentication, the conservative rate 2-second delays. Okay, that's fine. AI service. So we're going to use Llama 2 for summarization and GE embeddings for vector. Then we're going to use, maybe we should use OpenAI vector database. Just bring that in, but okay, we'll see. Database D1 SQLite for metadata, vectorization. And then we're going to do API complete. Sorry, that was just a weird call, 437 number. So yeah, Gmail API with proper, what's the word here we're looking for? Limiting, right. AI, email summarization, etc. Okay, I'm putting this here. It's not a good place for it, but I'm going to put it there. All dependencies. Frontend, 90% complete. Blocked by npm install. That's fine, we can do that. So Nux3 app header. Okay, we're going to run that. We're going to see what happened. Blocked by npm dependencies, patches, issues. I should tell it to just use bun. I keep forgetting to do that. npm cache for front end, we got to do npm. Why are we doing peer dependency? Try alternative installation method. You know what? I'm just going to tell it, let's just use bun. Can you use bun for all implementation? So can you switch my front end and back end to use bun? Just for the AI email summarize here. Yeah, I just wanted to, because I've been trying to use bun more and more, see if it's more stable. Okay. So while that's happening, let's create some backend stuff. We're going to do npx login. We're going to create a Wrangler database. We're going to call it AI email summarizer. So we could do this in the meantime on our Cloudflare. Where are you? 249 already. Okay, come on. Let's go to our email summarizer. What are we doing here? We're creating a database, yes. So let's go with our D1 database. I'm going to call it email summarizer and create a new database, local. Okay, and then that's it. We're going to copy this key here. Wrangler, so create Vectorize email embedding. So we got to create a Vectorize email embedded dimension. Okay, this one here, actually, you know what? I'm curious how to create this on the front end. Let's go do this on the front end. Where is power card? Is pretty short. Okay, so we're going to go to Vectorize, create a Vectorize index. And so keyboard cases such as, so keyboard cases or dash recommended. Oh, we got to create an index on the CLI level. Right. Okay. So we got that. Okay. So you tell you what, we're just going to let it run, set up the implementation. Maybe it was a bad idea to try and switch over to bun midstream while we're trying to get productive work, but I'm just getting sick of NPM and all of its slowness. Okay. So while we wait on all this stuff to happen, let's see if we could cover some grounds. One of the things that we'll have to do is authentication. I will set up Auth0 so that it has permissions to connect to Google. And we'll talk about that in a sec here. This is probably the hardest part of this entire thing, which is on the security front, we need to connect our application to to email, to a social provider, right? Here, it has Gmail already. If I click on it, I have to get the client ID, the client secret, and the details along the access permissions for Gmail. So I could give it permission to do this. This is where it gets a little tricky. Okay. Now I'm going to try to do this with my Dwayne Unfinished account, the throwaway email address that I have for this type of stuff. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this. We're going to bring this out into ChatGPT because it'll be easier for me to do it that way. Let's do it. So we're going to go to YouTube and we're going to say, my thing is getting covered up. Okay, 1 second. Okay, can you read this instruction details? And then once you understand it, you're going to give me the instructions step by step on how to actually connect my Gmail to Auth0 so I could get the right permissions to be able to access my Gmail. All right, so I have an email provider, email, okay? Gmail. I still haven't gotten my pen back, so I'm drawing with the mouse, so you guys gotta excuse me. Okay, so I got my Gmail. My Gmail needs access to my app. So this is my app over here, or actually it's the other way around. My app needs access to my Gmail, okay? So somewhere in between, I need to make some kind of connection. The problem is Gmail does not know who I am. You can't just log into anybody's email because theoretically you cannot be able to log into anybody's email across the entire globe. So Gmail is basically going to ask me for some sort of username or password. In the old days, you would just give username. In the olden days, you would just give Gmail your username and password and they would log in. The problem with that is that username and password would probably sit insecure inside of somebody's application. Maybe they encrypt it or something, but the point is now your username and password is spread across multiple different apps depending on how many apps you give email access to. So that's a problem. So how do you get around this problem of not getting your credentials? You create an app. So they came up with this model, part of the OpenID specification. You got this app. The app is controlled by you. So you create this app in Gmail. So there should be a wall here because there's Gmail and then there's the other category. This app is created in your application. Once you create this app in your application, that app will have a client ID, but we're just going to put ID here for now. And it's going to have a secret. I'm going to put S for secret. And that app, you're going to give that app permissions. So you're going to say, this app is authorized to access my email account. It's also authorized to access my calendar or whatever else. Once your app gets that sort of basic credentials, in our case, we're using Auth0 for security. So we have another layer over here. What we're going to do is we're going to register this app in Auth0, okay, under our account. And by doing that, we have the person that created the app here. Just to be clear, this app doesn't have to be attached to the actual Gmail account that you're trying to access. I just want to be clear that it doesn't have to be accessed or connected to. It's just an app that you, the SaaS provider, whoever you are, have created. Okay, that app now is registered with Auth0. Generally speaking, the same person that has access to Auth0 is also the same person that has access to this app, not the end email account that you're going to access. In this particular case, I own all three of them, but it doesn't have to be the case. Now, what's going to happen is again, try to simplify this here so it doesn't be too complex. So I might be butchering a bunch of stuff, but deliberately for the security people. Your app, this Auth0, now that it has linkage behind these two, can make backdoor access. Let's call it that for this conversation. It can make backdoor access. Let's put it in a different customer. So let's say this is green for your customer because they're paying you money. So now your customer will say, hey, I want to give this app access to my email account. Okay. So your app is going to say, I use Auth0 for my authentication. Auth0 will say, okay, no problem. Can you give me the credentials? And basically what it's going to do is going to do like a dance. Complicated dance, but it's going to do a dance where it's going to say, okay, since you're trying to log into Gmail, I'm going to take my app, aka this app here, is trying to access your Gmail account. So can you give the app permission to access your account? Okay. So you say, yeah, okay, I recognize the app because the app has a reputable name. And you say, yes, I recognize the app. I give this app to access my account. And suddenly your app will have a specific token that's going to be stored somewhere. And you're going to have to store that token, okay? And then whenever you make a call to access the Gmail account, you have to pass that token. And that token is going to be checked on the Gmail site to make sure that, yes, you have authorization because the user gave you authorization to access the app, okay? Hopefully, I've given you some sort of understanding of how that works. This is a very complicated mess in the security world, okay? And the goal is not to give you all the details. The goal is just to let you understand that you, the person creating the app, have to register your app in Gmail. You also have to register that app with your authentication provider, in my case, Auth0. And then whenever the user gives permission, it's going to give permission to your app in order to say, yes, I authorize this app to access my inbox. And as a result, email will give you some sort of key, okay? And you will take that key and you will hold it because that key is gold. And that key says, my app is authorized to access this inbox. That's the simplest I could probably explain this entire thing because it's messy. Hopefully you've gotten it. If you have, put a 1. By the way, I don't see any thumbs up on my YouTube thing. If you can, please thumbs up the video. Let me know, at least you guys know that you're getting some value from this. This is a very complicated topic that I'm trying to overly simplify for non-technical people. So hopefully you got it. If you haven't gotten it, then join the school and message me and I'll give you guys more details on how to do it. Okay. That's the mission. That's the goal, right? This back and forth dance is super important. And so that's what you have to do in order to make sure that you think. The question is, how do you register the app, right? Let's go back to our document. Let's go back to, oh, you're still working? Just trying to do a bunch of stuff here and it's not working. The file definitely exists. Let me check if there's okay. I don't even know what it's doing right now. We're going to come back to the AI actual step. I just want to make sure that you guys understand the concept because that's most important. Once you understand the concept, you can go deeper in this stuff here. The concept really matters, okay? Let's see what we got here. We're going to run this stuff here in a bit. I'm getting a bunch of errors with TypeScript and Bun. So I might have done the wrong thing by trying to switch from npm to Brun, but it is what it is. We're already halfway there, so we're just going to keep running with it and then we'll deal with the problems as it comes. All right. Okay. So email summarizer. Cloudflare. What do we have to do? Yes, continue it. I'm going to have to try to run the project at some point, see what we got. But let it cook for a little bit more and then we'll go through it a little bit more. Okay, can I make this bigger? Yeah, okay, interesting. Sorry. I'm experimenting with TikTok as a platform, but I don't know anything but TikTok. Go to my YouTube. So we got to register the app, right? Okay, so let's go back here and then what we're going to do step by step. Okay, so let's just do this. Step by step. Connect Gmail. Hang on a second. Got it. To reach your email and then Cloudflare worker backend. Auth0. Oh, it's not. Sorry. You can securely access Gmail with the right permission. What? You know what? I actually don't know. I've never seen this before. Hang on a second. What is this? I think they have the wrong name here. What is this? I've never seen this before. What? Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. What is this? Now I'm curious. It's just a name you informally use for this backend app. Oh, okay. I was like, what? Auth0 is a Cloudflare first authentication platform that connects to Gmail. Odds. Oh, I see. Oh my goodness. No, I meant Auth0. Jeez. I'm sorry. I get it now. I said Auth and I thought I meant Auth0 and I was like, what is that? I've never seen that in my entire life. Now it understands what to do now. Yes, okay. So going back to my diagram, it thought that I meant that this Auth0, ODDZ0 was this AUTH Auth0. That's so funny. I was like, what instructions are you giving me? See, this is where you still have to understand what you're doing because AI is one of those things where it goes a little haywire and it just says, oh, he said Auth0, so I'm just going to do Auth0, right? Gotcha. Auth0. Here's the exact full no fluff path to email via Auth0 so your app can read things, okay? All right, so use Auth0 for app login. Go to separate Auth0 flow, direct to email access, simple to reason about, blah, blah, blah. And the alternative, you could do a one-tap more setup, which is use Auth0 Google social login to obtain a Google scope refresh token and then retrieve them from Auth0. So a single sign-on data access, you must configure store token upstream parameter, blah, blah. We're going to do it the long way, because I want to make sure everybody understands this stuff, okay? So we're going to do Auth0 social connector route, which is Gmail scopes via Auth0. Should we do it this way? Or let's do configure Auth0, Google Auth social connection. Yeah, let's do, let me see, I'm just thinking, okay, let's go this way. So Google console prep, and then we're going to basically think. So you have to, let me just see if I can do it with Gmail. So Google console. Okay, so I gotta check if this account that I have, this Gmail account that I have access to Google console. Let's see, doing on finish. Google Cloud access blocked. May 25 has begun enforcing two-factor authentication. Yes, we're gonna have to do it. Okay, I gotta do this. Let's see. So I'm trying to use my Gmail account to do this. I'm gonna have to add a phone number and all this craziness. Turn on two-step authentication. Oh, of course, my phone is here. Add a phone number. All right, one sec, guys. Just setting up my authentication because this is a brand new email account from doing for these live stream, just so that people don't really access my real account. Now the question is, what is my phone number? Hang on, I'm gonna be paused for a bit. Okay, 1 second. Give me 1 second here, guys. 1, 3. Okay, so now I think I can log in. Yeah, so Google. Okay, I'll show you guys what I'm doing here. I just need to log in first and then we'll go from there. Yes. Okay, just had to do that security dance and now we could go back to, okay, so what are we doing? Where do you register the app? You have to register the app that we just talked about in Google console. This is the most annoying thing with Google. I open up a new tab and I type the word Google and what does it do? It takes away my word because it thinks that I just want to search Google. No, I'm looking for something specifically on Google. This is the most annoying thing with this browser. Now I could do that. So just the little things that matter, okay? So you're going to go to Google Cloud Console. This is Google's backend system that allows you to do all of this stuff here. And then you're going to basically log in with a email address that's relevant to your thing. Okay. And then what you're going to do is this allows you to set up for people that have Google accounts. You'll know this stuff, but this is for people that are new. This allows you to access all of their services, their GCP. So this is Google Cloud offering, right? Your API services, if you wanted to buy computers from them or store data in their cloud network. This is not a tutorial on GCP. However, you need to have an account that has Google Cloud Access in order to create an app. In this case, we're going to enable APIs and services. And we're going to use this to create an actual app itself. That's what we're going to do. Hopefully that makes sense. That's where you register the app. Okay. This is just a one-off type of dance you have to do to get your app set up and registered. So enable Gmail API in the app service thing. So library, enable Gmail API. So we need to go to library and then we look for Gmail, email API. Then we're going to say, try this API. No, let's see, so why is it doing that? Let's go to manage. Okay, so that's enabled. And then we have to enable, and then we have to consent screen. So user type external if you have outside of users in org, or is internal to testing. So app info and then support email and then things. So we got to register basically the app. So consent screen. And then we have to, where is it? Okay, it's here. Yeah, then we have to, I can never remember. I never can remember how to do this. I swear my life. Okay, so hang on a second. So branding, this is the app information here. I've already created one before. So Dwayne on finish, we're going to call it Vibe Coding 101. Okay. This is a user supported email address. And this is the application homepage, which we don't have right now. Link to a policy. I don't know if I have that. You can put up a logo and all that kind of stuff. And you have to set these URLs, these domains, because the domain is where you're going to do this sort of back and forth dance. Now, in our particular case, we don't care about all that kind of stuff. We just care about this scope here. What is the scope? The scope is you telling, going back to my diagram, it's you telling the app, I would like to access the read and the write or whatever you want to do with the app. In other words, you have to give the app specific permissions. Okay, where's the scope? Where's the scope? So documentation, so save. Let's do that. Excuse me. So scopes. Only add what you need, least privilege. Add test user while testing in test mode. Where is the scope? Audience, is it? Every time I come in here, it's like a brand new thing to me. Create the client. No. Data access. Here are the scopes. So right now I have a couple of scopes for a whole bunch of other stuff. Gmail, add-on, docs, drive, read-only, Gmail, read-only. So I think I already have enough scopes inside of here. Restricted scopes. Yes, I already have enough scopes inside of here. So data access. Add test. You click on add here and then you can check. See here, you could just check off all the different scopes, edit and delete all of your Google Drive file. I probably don't want my app to have access to that. This is a lot of power that I'm giving my AI. So how about we just uncheck all of these and we're just going to do, where is it? Next one, uncheck. And we want to do Gmail read only. Where are you? Gmail read only. Gmail modify, Gmail add-ons, Gmail meta. We want to do labels, sheets. Oh, it's so annoying that it's all like mumble. Hang on, let's just do all of them. So we want to do Gmail, not modify, compose, email, send. Oh, it's hard to read this way. Gmail. Okay, let's see all emails here. Read. So this is read and modify. Read, compose, and send emails from your inbox. This actually still gives you quite a bit of power. It's not ideal, but we're going to go with it for now. This is send. View your messages when added. Yeah, there's supposed to be a Gmail read only. See here, they're showing me a read only version, which is fine. We're just going to go with modify. There's a drive read only, but I don't see a read only for Gmail. I thought they had one of those. That's fine. We're going to go with this one. Email API settings. Oh, here, Gmail read only. View your email messages and settings. Maybe. No. Okay. Yep. We could go with that. All right. So update. I've got just limit the scope only to my Gmail. Hopefully that's making some sense. Okay, let's move forward here. We're not making as much progress as I'd like. And then the authorization URL must point to your callback. Okay, so in this particular case is going to be my domain name / my login. So where are we sending this stuff here? So we got to do a little bit of deployment before we could get this thing going. Let me see if you can run it first just to see what our front end looks like because we haven't actually looked at anything. So can you run my front end AI summarizer? Okay, let's see what we got. Let me refresh my screen here. See for the thumbs up. See, I'm only seeing 3 thumbs. Oh, I guess there's less than 4 people. So yes, okay. So script not font, really? Come on. So I see the script is being updated in Nux directly instead of bun Nux. Let me say, okay, just hurry up. This is really annoying about Frontend development. It's the one thing that turned me off with JavaScript. There's a lot of configuration that you have to deal with. It just takes so much time to get things running and configured. AI has dramatically helped that process significantly. So why can't it be reached? Hang on, I'm clicking on it. It's not running. Let me switch over to, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new endpoint because I do have a lot of stuff going there. I'm going to switch over to 4.5 and then I'm going to say, can you run my front-end AI summarizer and make sure that it's running properly? Let me put my terminal up so we can see what's going on in the terminal. So we're missing the import component. Yeah, okay. So 4.5 will fix this and get this up and running, and then we'll go from there. If you're joining for the first time on TikTok, go to my YouTube. We're live streaming over there. You can see the screen better. We could talk about some of the coding problems, challenges. Oh yeah, I should do a live Q&A on vibe coding every day with TikTok. Maybe I'll do that. I'll think about it. We'll see. New subscriber. Welcome, Mr. Kendrick. Kendrick Beck. I think I got that. Okay, we're moving slow here because AI is moving slow today. We're a little bit behind on our progress with this email thing. However, let's just talk about what we're doing here. We need to have a callback URL that allows us so that whenever let me just get rid of this diagram and do a new diagram so you understand what happens, okay? So again, you got your Gmail. You have your app. This is the app that we just registered, okay? I'm gonna put A for app. And then we have your actual app, which, by the way, in this particular case is actually just a worker. It's actually hidden behind the scenes, so you can't see it. The app will basically hit Gmail. It's gonna get the permissions. You're gonna say, yes, I authorize this app to access my emails. And then once that happens, the app needs to know where to call back. Like, where do I redirect the user after I've authorized them? That's what I was trying to get to. So you say, yes, go ahead. You're good to go. And then the app will just redirect you to a page, right? And then that's where you call it the callback page. That callback page will say, okay, yes, I got the token. I'm going to now take that token and save it locally in my database. All right. And then once it does that, you can use that token to call back out to get the information with the Gmail API, right? And you're going to pass that token along with it, right? TOKEN. And then that'll give you access to the email. So that's the key. That's the biggest and most important thing that you have to think about when you're doing this stuff, right? So in our case, what I've been doing is storing these keys in KV, right? Cloudflare KV. Going back to our diagram here, full stack diagram. Why? Because the keys are not something that you want to keep around. They're going to expire. And frankly, they have a lot of value because you need them to complete your application. But the point is they don't have any real value in the grand scheme of things in terms of like business logic specifically to your application. So you store them in KV, right? They're going to be swapped out constantly because they have to keep refreshing them over and over so that in the event that somebody get access to your keys, it's rotating, I don't know, every day or every other day, or every hour, depending on the level of security you're accessing. That's the important thing. So that's what this callback is. I can't do this part right now because I need to get this build going and then deployed so we can get the actual URL of where Cloudflare is put in this application. Chances are it'll be called AI Summarizer /workers, but I just want to get that URL so that we could point it to it, right? So yeah, hopefully that makes some sense. Okay, so server is interrupted again. Let's restart the server. You know what? We're just going to deploy because it's wasting our time here. Seems like I can't get it running locally. I don't know why. What's going on? Your AI summary frontend is now running successfully. Let's find out. I don't believe you. It tends to just give up. Okay, better than what we had before. So I'm getting this, which is fine. Better than where we were before. So Eric, let's just get it to fix this. So I'm going to create a new tab and then let's just go there. Trying to import, and then I'll try to get a deployment going, at least so we could at least get the basics going. We're way behind on our implementation. I feel like day one, but that being said, we're vibe coding. Sometimes we make a lot of progress. Sometimes we don't spend the first hour doing high level concepts for some of my newer people that are joining. Gotta go. No worries, man. We'll catch up later. Have yourself a good weekend, my friend. Ramon. We'll see you in another week. Hopefully we'll be able to join a call soon and chat a little bit more. All right. By the way, I want to see who's on the stream. Why does it look so blurry today? Okay, come on. Yeah, if it doesn't recognize this, we're going to have to see what we do. So perfect. So our server's running now locally. Let's see if it's actually doing this thing. Refresh. Man, we're getting so much like annoying issues today. Eh? Terminal is out. Showed server started, but curl can't connect. I see you canceled the server. I didn't cancel the server. You did. You canceled the server. Fix it, man. Fix it. Yeah. So anyway, while we're waiting for all to load, right, you do have to have some level of understanding with the vibe coding, right? I hate this idea of what's going on the internet right now, where you go to Lovable as an example, and they're like build something, create apps, website. You go to Replit T, and what does it say? Make a game for coworkers during lunch break that helps explore an enchanted world with hidden secrets to discover. Why would you? Replit was actually a good tool before AI came into place, and it's actually has a pretty good following. It's actually a decent tool altogether. So I'm not discounting what you can do with Replit, but this idea about making a game on your lunch break, is that your selling point, really? And Bolt, I actually have a lot more appreciation for Bolt because I find that it helps to get a lot of the grunt work out pretty fast. You load in. There we go. What will you build today? The problem with this is that it promotes this idea that you could just build an app and launch it in a weekend and it's fine. No, it's good for very small personal type projects. But if you're building something a little bit more scale, it really bothers me that people are not learning some of those fundamentals, not necessarily the code, but just the overall architecture of things. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to educate people a little bit more about, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to think about this a little bit more than just, okay, yeah, we're just going to whip up an app over a weekend. For some reason, it just keeps failing. So I'm going to tell it, tell you what, can you deploy my front end on Cloudflare? And can you deploy the backend as well too? So we're just going to tell it to do a deployment, and then I'm going to see what the errors are. For some reason, it's not running locally, and I don't know if it's because I got to restart my computer or if there's some other problem that I'm not seeing. You're already logged into Cloudflare. Yes, I am. So what it's going to do is try to do Wrangler deploy and get it to Cloudflare. Okay, so only 2 of us in here. Right, Sally joined. So many people asking, inviting to co-host stuff. It's like TikTok is a whole thing by itself. What's in it for you? Get to know like-minded creators, reach wider audience. Co-host is recommended to create and make new. Man, TikTok is a whole thing by itself. I gotta think about that a little bit differently. But yeah, we're just gonna deploy your app and then we'll look at it on Cloudflare. We'll see what happens and then we'll go from there. Because the problem right now that we're running into is that I just can't get it running locally while we wait. I know it's a small group inside of here, but you guys got any questions about vibe coding or any single thing? Like any question? Not even about this, just in general. You could talk about the other stuff while we're waiting for this to load. Just to be clear, we're here every Friday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Every Friday. Do or die. Today I actually got to cut off exactly at 4. So no matter how far we get today, we're going to pick up next week and keep going from there. Because one is we just program until we get the thing out. And then just to be clear, I forgot to mention this, but any single thing that we vibe code is going to be on my GitHub. You guys could download it and use it, etc. I'm going to pull out all the API keys and all that kind of stuff, but you guys can use it and add to it, build stuff, etc. Anything we vibe code in the public is public that you could then use. If you join my school community, the goal of the school community is so that I can do one-on-one with you, go through your specific project, answer your specific questions, and then help you build your project all together. But it's not just about your project, it's about how to launch your application. Okay, just to give a little background about me, I run a startup, so I'm teaching you stuff that I've built over the last 20 years of doing programming. I'm trying to fast track people that are interested in coding knowledge on not just how to build an application, because as you can see, anybody could do this. You just type in a prompt and tell the AI to do half the stuff. But what do you do to launch it? Like, how do you push it out afterwards? How do you get your first customer? These are all the important things that nobody kind of gives you the end-to-end picture on. So my attempt on this channel is not only am I going to teach you how to code, but I'm also going to teach you all of the lessons that I've learned. And I'm going to tell you all of the things that I failed at to make sure that you don't do the same thing. And then I'm going to show you how to build something that's scalable. And we're doing this all in Cloudflare because Cloudflare is an underrated platform that is way more scalable than people know for significantly cheaper costs. And if you want to go in Vercel, by all means, go in Vercel. But Cloudflare is the cheapest cloud vendor that you will find at scale. You can find cheap providers, but not at this kind of scale. And frankly, I don't even know if you'll find a cheap provider you'll be able to get this level of service, like features out of the box. First of all, everything that I'm showing you is running on $5 a month, which is crazy. $5 a month. Our AI is really taking a long time to load stuff here. The key is, how do you set up a platform? How do you launch it at scale? And if you're at 100,000 users tomorrow, you just be able to manage it with ease. So with that, let me see. For some reason, let me see. Wrangler KV. Okay, let's see if it actually created I think it's stuck. I might have to stop it and start it over again. So let's go to Cloudflare and see if it actually created the AI summary. Where are you? Okay, let's do this. No, it didn't deploy anything as yet. It's stuck. No question about it. It's stuck. So we're going to have to stop this. Create a new thing. I've been noticing that, can you deploy my front end and my back end AI summary application to Cloudflare? Hopefully we can get it back up. If not, that's cool too. Hopefully you guys learned something. We had 6 people at one point, but they probably didn't stick around. Okay, so it looks like we got a couple of problems here that might actually chew up a little bit more time. Need to fix the key value pair configuration, create the key value space first. If not, we're going to create it on our own because it's trying to create a few services and that seems like it's just getting stuck. So we might have to manually do it. Okay, it's taking way too much time. Let's move forward a little bit. We're going to let it run in the background. Hopefully it'll finish up, get its own thing worked out, and go from there. Let's go in. I saw a question on the school community for a second. We had a question inside of there. Showcase Cloudflare AI Gateway. Nowadays, payment gateway support usage. Pricing model. Okay, so this is something that we'll have to do for sure. I didn't get to this for sure. I'll get to this question. One of the questions in the school was about setting up Cloudflare API gateway so that we could do basically usage-based pricing. So this is actually interesting. There's a few layers to that conversation that I obviously can't cover today. However, let's talk about it while we wait for all this stuff to load. So monitor, control, and optimize your AI. Okay. So what is the AI gateway to just begin with? One of the problems with the APIs altogether, OpenAI, Anthropic, like Gemini, etc., is you end up in this situation where if you program against OpenAI and you decide you wanted to use another large language model, you run into an issue where you are not able to switch easily because all of your code is tied to one specific model. So it's quickly become apparent that for you to be flexible with your code, test different models, etc., you need some sort of abstraction layer. And that's what this is. So the API gateway allows you to have your service, talk to the API gateway, and with one string or two, tell the API if you use OpenAI, Claude, Anthropic, or whatever it is. And then the API gateway puts some additional things on top of it. It tends to monitor the traffic and allow you to be able to like track usage and a few other things. So it really gives you a lot of flexibility from that standpoint. So that's what an API gateway is. We won't be able to get into it in this conversation here, but we'll talk about it. There's an alternative, which is pretty popular. It's called OpenRouter, and they do exactly the same thing. So unified interface where they give you the best pricing, they give you the uptime, they give you all of that type of stuff. And what you do is you could just basically call any of the models and they abstract all the details for you. This is actually a pretty good option as well too. Actually, it's a good question. What is the difference? What's the platform fee? So 5.5% of platform fees. Interesting. So they just take 5 pay as you go, bulk discounts available. They add a 5% fee on top of it. That's interesting. So whatever the cost is, they just take 5% of it. Interesting business model. In the enterprise world, there's Azure Foundry, which is pretty solid. This is more complex. I use Azure Foundry because it has some enterprise level features that I care about from a security standpoint. But it's not the only one. OpenRouter is pretty good. Cloudflare has their own. We'll try the Cloudflare one. I've never played around with it, but we'll do a video on that for sure. We'll do a little bit more in-depth stuff. All right. Let's see where we are with this application, why it's not deploying. Tell you what, let's do this. Let's just go to Cloudflare. For some reason, it's just getting stuck. We're going to help it out a little bit by just going to Cloudflare and actually creating those endpoints. Sadly, we didn't get as far as I'd like to today, but we're going to create a KV. I'm going to call it storage workers KV. Just going to create a new, paste this, click on create. Oh, it already exists, of course. Here it is. Yes. Okay. I'm going to delete these keys because you need this key. I'm going to delete this thing. But workers KV, that's all we need. Let me do this now. Can you try to deploy my front end and back end? I've already created the worker KV. Can you fix the other items and deploy it? So let's see if we could get it deployed. Hopefully we could get it deployed before the end of this call. Hopefully. Let's hope. So yes, if you're new, I see we got a couple of people. I don't know if you guys are new, but if you are new for the very first time, don't know what the hell's going on. Basically, we're building an email AI analyzer that's going to ingest email, summarize it, and give you a chat interface that you could chat against your email, right? So there's tools like this out there. We're just building our own just so we can learn the details of how to connect Auth0 and how to connect our own authentication system using, right now we're using Auth0 as a platform, how to connect that with Google, and how to use Cloudflare workers in order to continuously pool to get that latest email, and then how to store that in a vectorized database. So we're doing a lot. We're coming up towards the end of the call, and I was waiting for my application to be deployed, but it seems to be taking a little bit of time for some reason. It did deploy to Cloudflare, but it's just not getting it back to feedback. So I'm either going to have to manually deploy it, or hopefully it does it on its own. Okay, so let me create a Vectorize. So it's going to create a Vectorize index, and the Vectorize index is basically going to store all of our embeddings, and embedding is basically the AI converting text numbers so that it can understand how to reference your questions better or answer your questions better. So that's basically what we're doing. We're going to be shutting off in the next few minutes, so we're on the last leg of this call. If you're new and you want me to look at your project and do a one-on-one with you, then join my school community. There we do ongoing calls where I help you out with your project and figure out how to launch it and get it out in the real world as fast as possible. All right? I've given you some insight into what this is about. Join the community if it makes sense. If not, we're here every Friday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., coding brand new applications from scratch, no prescript other than what we're going to be talking about. And it's just raw, so you can actually see how real vibe coding is done. I say real in air quotes because everybody has a slightly different way of doing things. To give some context, being a developer for a while, I've learned a couple things or two, so that's what we're trying to do, bring those practices in. Yeah, we definitely didn't get as far as I'd like today. Today was we're all over the place. And I started out a little bit slow because I wanted people to learn the fundamentals. These calls were recorded, so it was important for me to record it and put the full recording up on my main YouTube channel. So for 2 people I see in TikTok that's still here, go to my YouTube and subscribe to understand what we're doing a little bit more. But yeah, so every Friday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. we're going to take. We got about 6 more minutes, and for some strange reason, this entire thing is just stuck. Let's see if it's just sticking all the time. Oh, there we go. It's creating it. It's just not giving me a response. So let's stop this, okay? And let's say it looks like the Vectorized database was already created, index was created. Can you move forward with the next item? It's just, some reason it's just sticking. I don't know what's going on with it. So we're going to try to deploy the backend. Let's see if we can get that going. That's the moving parts on this application because there's a lot of broad stroke. But like I said, the recording is there. There's some concepts inside of here that might be of value to people. So go watch that. And if you got more questions, put a comment on the video itself. If you got questions, I'm happy to answer you there. If you want more support and more help, join the community. The community is an optional thing for people that want to work together, build something as a group. Seba likes. So thank you, Seba. Hopefully you're on YouTube watching. I'm all over the place with TikTok. I'm brand new to TikTok, so I have no idea how to use TikTok, and I'm just trying to experiment with it while I think. So let's see. Good. Using this, I can see thing. Now let's deploy the front end. Did we get a back end up? We got a back end deployed. Now let's deploy the front end. We got some errors there. Backend is deployed. I'm going to go to workers and pages. Let's see if it's actually deployed. Yep, we got a backend. Right. So, going to connect to workers AI. We got a D1 database. We got a KV store that we're going to use for a thing. We got a Vectorize index. We got a lot of stuff going on in this application. Now, the thing that I didn't actually see in here is how. Let's go look at the code in the meantime while we're waiting for the front end. In the backend here, library, we got our email service. Okay, and let's just look at it and see what's going on because it's hard to understand the details. So process status, processing email 15. So what we might have to do is we have to put this on a timer so it gets called on an ongoing basis, right? We'll talk about that. So insert embeddings. So vectorize client and insert embeddings. So we're going to register a new AI client. This is called AI client and embed AI. AI client is basically a class that has the instructions, so it has my prompt inside of it using this particular AI model to give me a summary. This is one that's going to generate embedded. So we got 2 very specific things. We got one that's generating embeddings, one we got creating answers, 3 of them actually, and then we got a summarize email. So we got 3 specific implementation on the AI client side. And here we're calling the AI client, passing in the environment variable. And then that AI client we're using to, where is it? This is the update the processing status. So this is basically processing the email. So when we call it, it's just going to basically try to run and try to get some of the email. See here, access token, refresh token. So this is what we're going to pass to email in order to say that we have permission to access this person's email. And then we're going to loop through and get all of the emails. We're going to extract the information into different variables or buckets, if you want to call them that. And then we're going to try to get a summary of it. We're going to get the embeddings, which means we're going to convert the text to numbers. And then from there, we're going to create an email record. And then we're going to store that information in our database. And then we're going to store the embeddings in Vector. So we're actually doing two different storing of things. So email ID and embeddings. That's interesting. All right. Then we got to update, prepare config, last process date. Okay. So we're basically just saying, hey, this was the last time that we ran the test so that we could keep track of when we need to run the next test again. Did it actually deploy? See, just failing every time. Okay. And I'm pretty certain it actually did it. Let's go see. So workers. No, didn't actually do the front end. Front end is failing for some reason. So let's just tell it, hey, can you deploy my front end? And let me just go down to, let's go down to GPT-5 or one of those other models and see what's going on, because we're getting some problems here. Can you deploy my AI summary front end? Sometimes the switching the model gets a little bit better. If not, I'm going to try OpenAX, and then we're up on time. So we're going to close things off and wrap up. Hopefully there's been some value here. To summarize, at the start of the video, we talked about different types of tools and why you should focus on Cloudflare. Then we worked on setting up the infrastructure for our AI summary email application, trying to get it deployed to Cloudflare. That's not working. We talked about security and how to think about security with Auth0 and how to do that dance. One of the talk in my chat was about getting better auth set up. So we'll try to tackle that in another video. But yeah, hopefully this has been some value of some sort. If it was, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, ask questions. There's a live video, so it doesn't always go as planned. It's not pre-scripted. Sometimes we make a lot of progress, sometimes we don't. Hopefully there was something in here that hit for you. Enjoy your weekend, and we are going to continue on this next week. We're going to get all the pieces worked out and then finish up the security part of the conversation. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you in another video. Bye-bye.